Hello, and welcome back to Speak English Daily.
Hi everyone, we are very happy to see you here today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speak English Daily. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more real English conversations that help you speak with confidence. Today, we're learning a small phrase that native speakers use all the time, but many English learners don't notice it until they hear it in real conversations. That phrase is turns out. It looks simple, but it can make your English sound much more natural.
I hear people say it in movies and videos, but I never feel completely sure when I should use it. Does it just mean actually?
Sometimes it feels similar, but turns out has its own special job. We use it when we discover something that is different from what we believed or expected before. It introduces a surprise or a new piece of information.
So it's connected to realizing something later.
Yes. Imagine this. You tell your friend, "I'm meeting you at the Blue Cafe." You arrive, wait for 15 minutes, and nobody comes. Then you check your phone and realize your friend said Green Cafe, not Blue Cafe. You could say, "Turns out I went to the wrong cafe."
That sounds much more natural than saying, I discovered that I went to the wrong cafe.
It does. Native speakers often choose turns out because it's short, relaxed, and conversational. Here's another example. You spend 10 minutes looking everywhere for your keys. You check your bag, your jacket, and even the kitchen table. Then you look in your hand.
Please don't tell me I was holding them the whole time.
It happens more often than people admit. You smile and say, "Turns out my keys were in my hand."
That's funny because the sentence almost tells a little story by itself.
That's one reason people love using it. Now, let's try one more situation. You arrive at a restaurant to meet a friend, but you think you're early. Then you walk inside and see your friend already sitting at a table with a cup of coffee.
I could say, turns out my friend arrived before me.
Perfect. You expected one thing, but reality was different. That's the feeling behind the phrase. We often use it after we realize something, discover new information, or learn that our first idea wasn't correct.
Let me try another one. I thought today's lesson would be difficult, but turns out it's much easier than I expected.
That's a wonderful example. You used expected naturally, and you also showed a surprise. Listen for this phrase in everyday English because you'll hear it in conversations about work, travel, family, shopping, and even funny mistakes. The more you notice it, the more comfortable you'll become using it yourself.
I'm already starting to notice why native speakers like it. It feels friendly, simple, and much more like real conversation.
That's why you'll hear "turns out" almost everywhere once you start paying attention. Let's look at a few everyday situations because that's where this phrase really comes alive.
Good idea. I think I learn faster when I can imagine real life instead of memorizing grammar rules.
Imagine you're planning dinner with your family. Everyone is excited about trying a new restaurant. You drive across town, walk to the entrance, and see a sign on the door that says "Closed on Mondays."
That's disappointing. So I could say, turns out the restaurant was closed today.
Perfect. You expected a nice dinner there, but something happened that changed your plan. Native speakers often tell little stories this way because the listener immediately understands there was an unexpected surprise.
Here's another one. I ordered a new pair of shoes online, and after work I checked the delivery app. I thought the package was still on the way, but turns out it had already been delivered to my front door.
Very natural. Notice how you used "already." That word often appears with "turns out" because people discover something was finished sooner than they believed.
Luckily, nobody took the package.
That's another useful word. Luckily tells us something good happened after a problem. You might say, "Turns out my package had already arrived and luckily my neighbor kept it safe."
I like how those words fit together naturally.
Here's one that happens in offices all the time. You think your meeting starts at 3 o'clock, so you arrive a few minutes early.
Then your coworker looks surprised and says, "The meeting started at 2:30.
Ouch, I made a mistake. It happens to everyone. You could tell someone later, turns out I had the wrong meeting time.
That sounds much smoother than giving a long explanation.
Now let's switch to something more fun. Have you ever watched a movie because someone recommended it, but you didn't expect much?
Many times. Sometimes I think this will probably be boring.
Then the lights come on and you're smiling.
I could say, "Turns out the movie was much better than I expected."
That's one of the most common patterns. People often compare expectations with reality. The surprise doesn't have to be huge. Even a small change can make turns out feel natural.
What about the weather? That's always changing.
Great example. You leave home wearing a light jacket because the sky looks clear. An hour later, dark clouds appear unexpectedly and heavy rain begins.
Then I'd say, "Turns out I should have brought an umbrella."
Nicely done. Before we continue, we'd love to hear from you. What's one time when something completely unexpected happened to you? Tell us using "turns out" in the comments. Keep your sentence simple and personal because speaking about your own experiences helps new vocabulary stay in your memory.
I think the more we connect this phrase to real moments, the easier it becomes to use without stopping to think.
That's one of my favorite things about this phrase. It helps us talk about moments when our opinion changes. We all have first impressions, but those first impressions are not always correct.
That's true. Sometimes I assume I know what a person or situation will be like, and then everything changes.
Assume is a wonderful word to learn. It means you believe something without knowing all the facts. Native speakers often connect that feeling with "turns out."
So, if I meet a new teacher who looks very serious, I might assume the class will be difficult.
That's a perfect example. Then, after a few lessons, you realize the teacher smiles often, tells funny stories, and explains everything clearly. You could say, "Turns out my new teacher was really friendly."
I like that because it doesn't only describe the teacher, it also tells people that my first impression was wrong.
That's why this phrase sounds so natural. It shows a change in understanding. Here's another situation. Imagine someone moves into the house next door. You don't know them, so you don't talk very much during the first week.
Maybe I think they want to be left alone.
Then, one afternoon, they wave, introduce themselves, and even bring you homemade cookies.
I'd happily say, "Turns out our new neighbor was very friendly."
That's a lovely sentence. We should be careful not to judge people too quickly. The word judge means forming an opinion before we really know someone.
That's a useful reminder, both for English and for life.
Now picture your first day at a new job. You meet a coworker who doesn't smile very much during the morning meeting.
My first impression might be that they're not interested in talking.
Later, you work together on a project, and you discover they're kind, helpful, and always ready to answer questions.
Then I could say, "Turns out my new coworker was one of the nicest people in the office."
Beautiful. Let's try another common experience. Many students worry before the first lesson of a new class. They hear it's challenging, so they become nervous.
I've felt that before. Sometimes I lose confidence before I even begin.
Then the lesson starts, the teacher explains everything step by step, and the activities are enjoyable.
I could tell my friend, "Turns out the class wasn't as difficult as everyone said."
Very good. The same idea works for exams. After finishing the test, you realize your worries were bigger than the real challenge.
So I can say, "Turns out the exam wasn't difficult."
One last example. Imagine you're walking through a park and notice a large dog running toward you. At first, you feel nervous.
I'd probably stop walking for a second.
Then the dog reaches you, happily drops a tennis ball at your feet, and waits for you to throw it.
In that case, I'd laugh and say, "Turns out the dog just wanted to play." I think this phrase makes stories more interesting because listeners enjoy discovering the surprise with you.
One reason native speakers enjoy using turns out is that it makes funny stories more entertaining. Life is full of little mistakes, and these moments often become the stories we laugh about later.
I have plenty of those. Sometimes I think I should write them in a notebook.
Then you'd never run out of conversation topics. Imagine you're taking the bus home after work. You sit down, relax, and enjoy the ride. 20 minutes later, you look outside and suddenly nothing looks familiar.
Oh no, turns out I got on the wrong bus.
That's a perfect sentence. You believed everything was fine until you discovered your mistake. Those are the moments when people often laugh and say, "Seriously?"
Or, no way, how did I do that?
Here's another one. You send a text message saying, "Dinner was wonderful. Thanks for inviting me." A few seconds later, you notice it wasn't sent to your friend.
You're kidding.
It went to your dentist instead.
That would be awkward. I could say, turns out I sent the message to the wrong person.
Very natural. Now imagine you want to call your brother, but you accidentally choose another contact with a similar name.
The stranger answers and I start talking before I notice.
Then you stop, apologize, and later tell someone, "Turns out I called the wrong person by accident."
I think everyone has done that at least once.
Birthdays can create funny moments too. You spend the whole morning planning a birthday message, only to discover your friend's birthday is next week.
I'd feel embarrassed.
Many people would. You could simply say, "Turns out I remembered the wrong date."
That's much easier than explaining every detail.
One more. You leave the house feeling confident, greet your coworkers, and later someone quietly says, "Your sweater is inside out."
Please don't tell me that has happened to you.
Maybe once.
Only once?
Let's say I learned to check the mirror more carefully. The sentence would be, "Turns out I was wearing my sweater inside out."
These stories showed that small mistakes happen to everyone, and talking about them with a smile makes conversations more enjoyable.
That's also true when learning English. Many students believe their biggest challenge is grammar because grammar books often receive the most attention.
I used to think that too.
Then, after months of learning, many people discover something surprising.
Turns out grammar wasn't my biggest problem.
That's a sentence thousands of learners could honestly say. Grammar matters, but communication depends on many skills working together.
I noticed something similar. I spent a lot of time studying rules, but turns out listening helped more than I expected because I finally began hearing how native speakers naturally connect words.
That's a wonderful observation. Listening builds familiarity. After hearing expressions again and again, they begin to feel comfortable instead of strange.
I also learned another lesson. Turns out, speaking every day made the biggest difference. At first, I waited until I felt ready, but I never felt ready.
That's a common experience. Confidence usually grows after regular practice, not before it. Every conversation becomes another small step forward.
Even my mistakes became useful.
That's an important idea for every learner. Instead of fearing mistakes, treat them as teachers.
So I can honestly say, turns out mistakes helped me improve.
Beautifully said. Improvement is often quiet. One new habit each day creates progress over time. You don't always notice it immediately, but one day you realize conversations feel easier than before.
That gives me hope, because progress isn't always fast, but it keeps moving.
Now let's look at a few patterns you'll hear from native speakers. The simplest one is just "turns out," followed by the new information.
Like, turns out I was wrong.
Perfect. Another common pattern is "it turns out that." This version is a little longer, but it means almost the same thing.
So I could say, it turns out that the store closes early.
Yes, both sound natural. Native speakers simply choose whichever feels comfortable in the conversation.
What about, turns out we arrived early?
Another excellent example. Or, turns out everything worked out. That sentence is common after a stressful situation has a happy ending.
Sometimes I hear people say actually. Is that the same?
They can feel similar, but they aren't always interchangeable. Actually often corrects information. Turns out introduces something you discovered later. For example, I thought the shop was open. Turns out it was closed. You could also say, actually it's closed, if you're correcting someone in that moment.
And find out is the action of discovering something.
That's right. You find out the news first. After that, you might tell someone, turns out the news was true.
Can we do a quick practice?
Of course. Which sounds more natural? Turns out I forgot my wallet, or turns out I am forgetting my wallet yesterday.
The first one.
Good. How about, it turns out that we arrived early?
That sounds natural too.
Last one. I found out the answer yesterday. Later, you're telling the story.
I'd say, turns out the answer was much simpler than I expected.
Wonderful. You're beginning to use the pattern naturally, and that's the goal of today's conversation.
The more examples I hear, the more this expression feels like something I'll use without even thinking about it.
It sounds like you're ready for something a little more challenging. Instead of looking at one sentence at a time, let's have longer conversations where turns out appears naturally. I'll mostly join the conversation, and you try to react the way you would in real life.
I like that idea. It feels closer to how people really speak.
Imagine we're planning a weekend trip to a small town by the lake. We both want to leave early on Saturday morning.
Sounds good. I checked the traffic online last night, so I think the road should be quiet.
I packed everything except snacks.
That's fine. We can buy something on the way. Oh, I checked the hotel reservation this morning. Turns out they gave us a room with a lake view without charging extra.
That's a nice surprise.
I wasn't expecting it at all. Turns out reading the customer reviews helped because someone suggested calling the hotel a day before arriving.
That's a useful travel tip.
We should remember it for our next vacation, too.
Speaking of vacations, where would you like to go later this year?
I wanted to visit the mountains, but my family had different plans. Turns out everyone wanted to spend a few days near the beach instead, and after looking at the photos, I changed my mind.
Sometimes the unexpected plan becomes the better one.
It really does. Turns out I enjoy relaxing holidays more than busy sightseeing trips.
Let's try another situation. We're shopping for a birthday gift.
We have plenty of choices, but it's difficult to decide.
I thought that blue backpack looked perfect.
I liked it too, but turns out my cousin already bought the same one last month.
Good thing you found out before paying.
Luckily, we still have time to choose something different.
Now we're sitting in a coffee shop after shopping.
I ordered my usual drink, but the barista recommended something new.
Did you try it?
I did. Turns out I really liked it. I almost ordered my regular coffee without thinking.
Sometimes trying something different is worth it.
I think so. Turns out my favorite drink has changed.
Let's visit your family's house for dinner.
My grandmother always cooks too much food.
That sounds familiar.
We all promised to eat a light meal, but turns out everyone asked for another serving. By the end of dinner, nobody had room for dessert.
That happens in many families.
Then my uncle appeared carrying a homemade cake.
Let me guess.
Turns out everyone suddenly found space for dessert after all.
That's very believable.
Here's one more. At work, we were preparing a presentation for an important meeting. Everyone thought we needed another hour to finish the slides. Turns out the final version had already been saved in the shared folder, so we were ready much earlier than expected. Instead of rushing, we spent the extra time practicing our presentation, and the meeting went smoothly.
I can feel myself using turns out much more naturally now because it fits into everyday conversations without making the sentences sound forced.
That's wonderful to hear because comfort is the real goal. When a phrase feels natural, you stop translating in your head and simply use it. Before we finish, let's go through one final phrase pack. Listen and repeat each sentence out loud.
Turns out I left my wallet at home.
Turns out she already knew the answer.
Turns out we had plenty of time.
Turns out the plan worked.
Turns out I worried for nothing.
Those all sound like sentences I could use this week.
Good. Here are a few more. Turns out they were waiting for us.
Turns out the food was amazing.
Turns out my first idea wasn't the best one.
Turns out everyone agreed.
Turns out it was easier than I thought.
I can hear a pattern now. Every sentence begins with an expectation and then something different is revealed.
That's a great observation. Now let's do a quick quiz. I'll give you a situation and you make a sentence. Ready?
I'm ready.
You thought your train was late, but it arrived early.
Turns out the train was early.
Very good. Next one. You believed your phone battery was dead, but it still had 20%.
Turns out my phone still had plenty of battery.
Nice. One more. You expected a difficult conversation with your manager, but the meeting was short and positive.
Turns out the meeting went much better than I expected.
Excellent. Now let's practice with 3 short role plays. I'll begin the conversation and you respond naturally. Here comes the first one. Did you enjoy the concert?
I almost didn't go because I wasn't interested, but turns out it was one of the best concerts I've ever seen.
Great. Second one. How was your visit to the new bookstore?
I only wanted 1 book. Turns out I came home with 4.
I think many listeners can relate to that. Last one. How did your cooking experiment go?
I followed a new recipe and turns out everyone asked for another serving.
Those all sounded smooth and conversational. Before we finish, let's quickly review today's key vocabulary. We learned that turns out helps introduce something we realize or discover after believing something else. We also used words like realize, discover, expect, assume, surprise, actually, and find out. They all help us describe learning new information, but each has its own job in a sentence.
I also noticed something important. I find out information first, then I can tell the story by saying, turns out. That connection makes everything much easier to remember.
That's a helpful way to think about it. Now here's your final speaking challenge. Make 3 original sentences. In the first one, talk about something surprising from school, work, or daily life. In the second one, describe a person you judged too quickly. In the third one, share something you discovered about yourself while learning English. Say your answers out loud instead of only thinking about them.
I think speaking out loud really makes a difference because it helps the words become part of real conversation instead of staying inside a notebook.
We hope today's lesson showed you how often native speakers use turns out in everyday English. Keep listening for it in conversations, movies, podcasts, and videos, and before long, you'll begin using it naturally yourself. If you enjoyed learning with us today, subscribe to Speak English Daily. Give this episode a like and share it with another English learner who wants to sound more natural. Thanks for spending your time with us, and we'll see you again in the next lesson. Until next time, keep practicing, stay curious, and don't be surprised if one day you realize that speaking English feels much easier than it did before.